All right, up first today we have Jim and Jane, a couple on the line. They wrote in and said, this is a summary. My partner did something to breach my trust. Once the damage is done, is it ever possible to build trust again in a romantic relationship? Go ahead, Jim and Jane.
Hello.
Hi.
Good morning. Can you guys both hear me?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay, you're not like passing a little earphone back and forth, right? So we can have like I dare I say a three-way?
Yeah, we can both hear you. We both have headphones in, spliced.
Now, hopefully a three-way is not the cause of the trust issue, because that would be kind of ironic, but I wonder if you could talk a little bit about what happened.
Do you want to talk about it?
I'm not sure which one of us should explain what happened. Do you want to hear from him or me?
Who did the wrong?
I did?
Yeah, Jane, if you could, I think that would be excellent.
Okay.
And appreciate you calling in. I know it's tough stuff. I really do appreciate that that you're calling in. I'll try to be nice. I'll really, really. I'm just kidding. But go ahead, Jane.
I was thinking that. I hope he's nice to me. But, we've been together for about 4 years. We plan on getting married in August. And last week, I went out with a friend to a ball game, and it was really cold at the ball game. We ended up sitting inside at the bar and getting really drunk, my friend and I. And basically what happened was on the way home, we met someone on the train, and we went to that person's house, and I cheated. And basically, I blacked out. I'm not really sure exactly what happened there at that person's house. But the reports were just, basically fooling around with him and, fooling around with him. And so the next morning, when Jim got the report, he woke me up, and I was kind of oblivious because I didn't know. I had blacked out, so I didn't know what happened. And the only reason I really found out what happened was because of the report that the friend that I was with gave. So, yeah, basically that's what happened, and that's what happened.
Wow. I'm sorry to hear that. I mean, that's a pretty terrifying experience. To not know what happened. You basically lost time, right?
Yeah, and so that's not the first time that happened, though. It's been happening.
Wait, because you gave me a lot. First time you went to a ball game, first time you were cold, first time you went on a train, first time...
Oh, okay.
Do you mean the first time that you blacked out, or the first time that you were unfaithful?
It's not the first time that I blacked out. It was the first time that I was unfaithful, but not the first time that I blacked out over the years throughout my 20s.
Is it possible... I don't mean to freak you out, but is it possible that it's not the first time you've been unfaithful, but you don't remember the other times because you?
No, it's not possible because of the situations where we were. I remember, I know where I was those other times that I blacked out. We weren't alone with someone, is what I'm saying. Yeah.
And. Unfaithfulness is a continuum from like flirting, heavy flirting, all the way through like unprotected vaginal intercourse. Do you know where you were on that continuum that night?
Well, I am almost certain that there was no vaginal intercourse.
Wait, you're almost certain that there was no?
Yes.
And how do you know? I'm not doubting you. I'm just curious about.
Yeah, no, only because of the report that my friend gave, and I mean, only because I just feel like I would have remembered that. I think I would have remembered that.
Okay, so I mean, I don't know. And when did this happen again? Was it last week?
Last week, yes.
Okay. So a couple of technical items. Obviously, you've got to check for STDs, and a pregnancy test obviously would be a good idea, right? Just in case.
Right, which has already been done. Yes.
Yeah, both of those things have been
But
done.
it may, yeah. Okay, and so if you're fine for that, that's obviously good. So I just wanted to double check on that.
Yes, those things have been done.
There is some fuzziness for me. It's just the first time I'm hearing the story, and I understand, Jane, also there's some fuzziness for you. So if you pardon me, just trying to sort of sort out the details of what happened in the moment. So when you met a person on the train and you went back to that person's house, is that right?
That's right.
And was it with your friend that you went to the ball game with?
Yes.
And the infidelity occurred with the person you met on the train or with your friend?
With the person I met on the train.
Right, okay. And your friend was there in the apartment or in the house when this occurred?
Yes.
Did your friend not see fit to stop you?
She stated that she tried to stop me and that I wouldn't listen to her. And that so she kind of just gave up temporarily and was in the bathroom or in the other room, and she said that she had tried to stop me and I wouldn't listen to her, and so she was kind of just waiting for me to leave with her, but that she couldn't stop me.
Wouldn't she call the cops or something? I mean...
Well, no.
I mean, it just seems to me like infidelity in an engagement, particularly if you're going to get married in August, infidelity is obviously can be a massively life-changing event. I'm not sure, but like, well, I tried to stop you, but then I just sort of wait until you finished having sex with a guy you don't even know, where you could get a disease or you could get pregnant and you could blow up your engagement. I'm sort of trying to look at the environment and trying to sort of figure out what was happening, because it seems to me like a friend would be like, no, I'm calling the cops. If you go in that room, I'm going to call the cops. And I'm going to get you removed from the premises because you're in no condition to assent to sex, right?
Yes. She's not... We haven't been friends for that long, and I know that she's not the best... she's not a very good person. We were friends, but basically... I just don't... She's not... I can't say that I trusted her 100%, but I think I was just friends with her because she was there, and she was also somebody that liked to drink. So we had that in common. She was kind of like my drinking buddy. But yes,
right.
I know that.
Okay, so she's got bad judgment herself, and
yes, exactly. So.
Okay.
You would think that would be the right smart thing to do, would be to call the cops, but no, that's not what happened. Plus, do you have any memory of her trying to? Sorry to interrupt. Do you have any memory of her trying to intervene? Slightly, yeah. Yeah.
Nice. Okay. Well, I'm incredibly sorry for the situation. I really am. I am relieved that this crisis, obviously I think it's fair to say that it's a crisis, has occurred before you've gotten married, because obviously it would be even more complicated afterwards. So, but what a heartbreaking situation to be in, right? I mean, it is. I mean, heartbreak is one of these words that's used a lot, but I think it's fair to say that this is genuinely heartbreaking, right?
Absolutely, 100%.
Yeah, I'm incredible. I mean, I'm very sorry. Again, I just want to sort of point that out ahead of time.
Me too.
I'm sorry, Jim. We'll get you in a sec. I just want to sort of get a sense. So, Jane, you say that this drinking to blackout and losing time has occurred before, and how often has that occurred?
I mean, all throughout my 20s, but I would say. I mean, I'm 33 now, so I would say at least 10, 15 times throughout my 20s and up till now.
All right. And what are you running from in yourself when you do that?
I think I did, initially, I think it's just like a social anxiety issue of me feeling more better able to connect with people when I do have a drink. That's where it starts, is where it's like, oh, it's so much easier for me to be social when I'm drinking. But then it turns into just, wow, this is so much easier and this is way more fun, so let me have another. And wow, it's even easier, so let me have another. And then it's like, it becomes just, for me, I think it's in my head, it's just, it makes it easier, but in reality, it's just making it worse.
Yeah, it certainly has a self-destructive element to it. And where do you think the social anxiety comes from?
It comes from my lack of self-worth, I guess, my feeling of less than because of the work that I'm in, and just I guess the thoughts that I have about myself and the way I judge myself because I'm a waitress. I went to school to become a teacher, and I became a teacher, and then of course was disillusioned by public school system, so resigned and have been just waitressing because I haven't found a school that's in line with my beliefs about how children learn and grow. So and also just the waitressing is great money, so I think it has a lot to do with my lack of being able to say, oh, I'm living my life purposely. I have this job that I love, and I'm not able to kind of feel good about myself in social situations. So,
well, that's look, I appreciate that, but that's not the real answer. And the reason I know that's not the real answer, and I don't mean this in a critical way, I'm just giving you the feedback. You say that it's because you're not where you want to be in your life, but you also said that this happened throughout your 20s, right?
Right.
So that can't be the answer, right? I mean, that may be your excuse now, and I don't mean an excuse like you're being a bad person, but if it was, then it would not have happened in your 20s, and maybe it would happen now because you're disillusioned. So let's go further back in time, and let's talk about your childhood.
Okay, but in my 20s, I also was kind of striving constantly to be somewhere else. Like when I was in school, or the job that I was in was just kind of like a stepping stone to get somewhere else. So it could be that, not that I'm arguing with you, but I mean, that was
argue with
awesome.
me if you want. It's your life. I don't want to erase your opinions or your perspectives at all. But if you say it's because I'm disillusioned and don't want to be, I'm not where I want to be in my life, in my mid-30s, then that would not have been nearly as much the case in your 20s. Like, we all do stuff we don't like in our 20s, but we have this goal of getting somewhere, right?
Yeah.
So, so what happened? What was your childhood like?
Where do I begin? I guess.
Well, how were you disciplined?
My mom hit me like once or twice when I was young, but it was infrequent. I mean, I got spanked a few times early on, but I know that I can remember her feeling guilty over it and not wanting to do that, and more not spanking, but yelling or punishing, but getting grounded and stuff like that.
All right. And your father?
My father was incarcerated when I was like 4 years old, and we used to go visit him like on the weekends, but my mom and everyone else told me, I guess, that he was in the Army, and that's where we were going to go visit him, because it was kind of like it wasn't like a it was more like a country club prison. It wasn't like a real like lockup. Like he used to wear, like, I remember him wearing like a brown suit, and like we used to, all the families used to meet with the men like in like a courtyard kind of. But yeah, I thought he was in the Army. My mom and everyone else lied to me about that until I didn't
Why
really.
was he incarcerated?
Selling drugs. So he
And
was.
how long was he incarcerated for?
Like 5 years, maybe less. Three,
Oh my
3, 4,
God.
5. Yeah, so I was
So
like,
from 4 to 9,
yeah,
you would go and visit your father. At some point, you must have guessed that this was not a country club, right?
no, I didn't know until I was older. I didn't realize till I was older that he was in jail, and it was like
Hang on.
accidental.
So you said you were 4. So you were 9 when he was released?
About that, yeah.
And did you go and visit him often?
Yeah, and then when he got out, he had visitation on the weekend, so we would see him every weekend, and we would spend time with him every weekend.
Sorry, you mean, did your parents split up while he was in jail?
Yes. Yes. Like my mom was seeing someone else also while he was in jail.
Right. Right. I mean, I'm so sorry. I mean, I'm, for what it's worth, very much against the war on drugs. I think it's terrible to rip a family apart like that and to hurl a man in a cage for 5 years for selling drugs. I mean, it's horrifyingly unjust, and I'm incredibly sorry that happened to your family as a whole.
Thank you.
And what was your relationship with your father like after he was released from prison?
It was just like on the weekends we would go to his house and spend time. It was nice, you know. It wasn't like a deep connection, but he was always there for us. He always made it, you know, very intentional to have us with him every weekend. And it was nice to spend time. And then as I got older, it was kind of like every other weekend, you know, as I was a teenager, it was kind of like every other weekend. And then it was kind of whenever we chose to, once we got our driver's license. And but it's always been, you know, a constant. Our relationship is, he's there for me, you know, we love each other, but it's kind of, you know, things aren't really spoken of. Certain things aren't really spoken of.
Like what?
Like, you know, when he was in jail and what that was like for me, like discussions of what it was like when he was married to my mother and when I was little, or even now, like kind of like any conversations that are deeper than just, so how's work, kind of.
Right.
Yeah.
And have you talked to your mom about all this stuff that happened when you were a kid?
Yes, we've talked about it.
And what is the conversation like? How does that go?
She told me about what led up to his arrest and how she kept telling him, you know, to be careful and that to stop doing it, that he was going to get in trouble, and was kind of like, I told you so kind of thing once he got arrested. And, you know, that first night she kind of just left him there because she told him that was going to happen and he didn't listen to her. And so, you know, she was always loving when he was away. She was always there and loving, and loving, but she worked. So, I remember like being home alone. Like we didn't go to like latchkey or anything after school, but like coming home from school and her not really being there, just like me and my sister. But, yeah, I mean, she regrets that she lied to me about him being in jail, but she felt that was what she needed to do then.
What sort of men did your mom go out with after this?
Well, she was actually married to the man that she was with when she was married to my dad. He was loving. My stepfather is loving.
I'm
and
sorry, I just missed that part. Hang on. So she was she married to your dad?
She was, yes. So
and
she
then
was
you said
married. She was married to my dad, and then when he was in jail, she met my stepfather, and she was dating my stepfather, who is now my stepfather.
And then she divorced your dad and married your stepfather?
Yes. But yeah, like when my dad was away, I don't remember her like dating random men. Like I don't remember. I think I remember just one time seeing a man leave the house, just one time, like, and being like, oh, who's that kind of thing. But like she didn't date, it wasn't like random men. It was just like, basically my memory is just of like her seeing my stepdad when my dad was away, and him being very loving and totally cool.
Your stepdad, you mean?
Yes.
All right. And so you have a good relationship with your stepdad?
Yes. Mm-hmm.
And what's he like?
He's funny and kind. Yeah, he's funny and kind. And loving, very loving.
The only thing that I really know about your stepdad is that he met your mom and he said, oh, you have kids. Do you have siblings?
Yeah, I have a sister.
You've used we, right?
Yes.
Okay. So your stepdad met your mom and said, oh, you have kids and you're married to a guy in prison.
Yeah.
Why would he get involved in that kind of situation?
Because my mom is beautiful.
Right.
But he was also married at the time, and he has two sons. But I think they had met at the time they met. Both of their marriages were, shitty. So I never really talked to my dad about stepdad.
Let me make a guess, Jane. This is an educated guess, but it remains only a guess. The guy you met on the train last week, was he a good-looking fellow?
I hardly remember. It's embarrassing, but I hardly remember.
Oh, so you blacked out not just when you blacked out, but also the memories that led up to it?
Yes. From when we left the game, I don't really remember from even leaving the game, really.
Right. Well, the likelihood is that he was a good-looking fellow. Because, of course, your relationship, your parents' relationship right now, or your mom and your stepdad's, was founded on betrayal, right? They were both married. They had affairs, and then they got together, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
And now your marriage is going to be now founded on betrayal, right? I'm just saying that there are these patterns in life when you look for them. And you don't usually have to, we've been talking for like half an hour, you don't usually have to look too deep, but you can find these patterns, right?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
All right. And so, Jim, do you mind if I ask you some questions?
Sure.
How attractive is Jane? I'm sorry to ask you this with Jane in the room, but physically, right? 1 to 10?
Yeah, she's very attractive.
Very attractive. All right.
Very attractive, yes.
Okay. And Jim, tell me a little bit about yourself.
What would you like to know about specifically?
Well, we could start with the present, which would be more making small talk. So let's go to the childhood. How was your childhood?
So my inclination is just to go where if I was hit, when I was hit, kind of thing. So my mother was my mother has always been really loving, supporting. My father was like a workaholic, and at a very young age, I remember when I was like 8 years old, I remember my mother crying and telling me that one day she's going to leave my father, and like feeling really bad about it. Because she's like a really...
How old were you?
I was about like 8 or 9. And
well, hang on. We've got a lot of time there before 8 or 9.
Okay.
What happened before then?
Before 8 or 9?
Yeah.
I don't know. I mean, there's things that throughout my life, like with my father,
yeah,
I know, like, and this is before even I was born, my father was married, and his wife committed suicide. And then so I have a half brother from my father's first marriage, and my mother and my father met through my mother's uncle, who was a priest, and like, you know, they said that there was this guy that his wife committed suicide, and then my mom talked to him, whatever, and they ended up getting married. And this is actually a conversation I had with my mom about, like, what had you marry my dad? Like, you know, with all of like his behaviors, you know, the stories I hear about my father, like infidelity that he has done, and all of these things.
You mean with his first wife?
With his first wife. And I even asked my father, like, flat out, like, did you ever cheat on mom? And he was just like, no, like, and it's just, I don't believe him. Like my father is like... Wait,
but you said there was infidelity. Was there infidelity with your father and his first wife?
I don't know, but I would assume, I mean, I don't know for sure, but I would say my half brother would say absolutely, but maybe wouldn't even admit it.
And do you know why his first wife killed herself?
I talked about it with my half brother, and I don't know the specific reasons, but I know that my father didn't treat her well. I know that for certain, just to see how my father treated my mother. But I don't know the exact reason. I can't like just pinpoint it and say what it is.
And Jim, what do you do for a living?
Currently, what I'm doing is I'm in sort of like a UX design position, like creating and designing interfaces.
You mean a user interface?
Yes.
Okay. And I'm sorry. Go ahead. Let's just again. How old are you, Jim?
I am 31.
31. All right. Do you guys want to have children?
Absolutely.
Okay, both of you, right? I mean, sometimes people say absolutely. I hadn't talked it over.
Yes.
Yeah. We talked it over a lot, and I mean, it's one of the things that like where we are in agreement on in so many ways. Like, yes, Jane is absolutely beautiful, and the thing that really keeps me...
You mean physically?
Like, physically, yes. And the thing that like makes it so hard to leave her is just the fact that the way that we've talked about how we're going to raise our kids and what we're going to do. Like we're completely on the same page with that, and that's a really important like factor in my life. Like that is something like a virtue that she has that I value highly beyond whatever she may look like.
Right. All right. Now, what are you guys' levels of emotions during this conversation? You sound kind of monotone to me, and I've been crying because the stories are so gruesome. Your histories, I'm so sorry. I mean, what a complete mess. And how are you guys doing emotionally?
Well, this happened.
Where are you guys emotionally?
Now it's like 10 days ago. So, I mean, obviously when it first happened, it was like tremendously overwhelming to the point where it was like, you know, nervous breakdown kind of. The first 2 days after it happened was like literally nervous breakdown where like I have never felt the pain in my body, anything ever like that before. So the first 2 days were incredibly painful. And then once I spoke to my coach, my therapist, about what had happened, it subsided a little bit because we were able to actually sit down and talk clearly about what led, you know, the events that led to that and what happened that day. So every day it's been just like easing just that slight bit where it's not as painful, but it's, you know, it's still present, obviously. But, you know, I'm laying down right now. We were ready we prepared ourselves to talk with you. So I'm laying down just, you know, in a position of comfort to be able to just talk to you clearly. And so that's where I'm at right now.
Yeah. And for me,
okay,
like,
so you're describing to me your emotions in the past, but you're not feeling too much in the present, if I understand it rightly.
The emotion over the incident has subsided tremendously, but like right now, what I'm feeling right now is just a little nervous just to even be talking about it. But it's just it's more just a nervous being like on the show and talking to you, because we listen to your show all the time. So it's more like a nervousness over just talking to you. And
sorry to interrupt. And Jim, how are your feelings doing?
So from the beginning of the show till now, like it's just been like anxiety, just a fear of learning something new about myself that maybe I'm not going to be comfortable with. And still like a willingness to know, like I want to have like self-knowledge so we can, prevent this from happening again. And
but you don't know why it happened yet. I've been listening for 40 minutes, and there's not been one piece of insight that I've heard about why this happened last week. You guys seem to me to have had one of the worst disasters that can befall a couple, which threatens the marriage, threatens the having of children, threatens a 4-year relationship, and you guys aren't in your 20s anymore, right? So if you don't get married, then Jane, it's going to be tough for you to find someone in your fertility window to have kids. So this is probably, I would say, the biggest disaster that has befallen you as adults. You don't seem to feel very strongly about it, and you don't seem to have any insight as to why it happened.
Well, I would say to say that we don't feel strongly about it is, I don't think that's valid.
I just asked you. You said, I feel a little nervous, I'm lying down, but the feelings are better than they were a week ago. A week is not enough time to recover from this. I'm not trying to tell you guys what you're feeling, but you're speaking to me in a monotone. There's no emotional connection that I can hear, and I can't see you, so I can just go by what I hear. There's no emotional connection when talking about your children. And there's no, how could this have happened? I mean, I have some thoughts or ideas about why it happened. But the important thing is for me to see whether you guys have thoughts or ideas about how this happened. I mean, it's a complete catastrophe. and it doesn't seem that you know why it happened.
Yeah, well, I mean, when after the first couple of days after it happened, we have the what we talked about was, how could this happen? Like, where did this come from? And it was more like talking about the fact that he didn't really know about, my blackouts before we were together. Or
he didn't know about your blackouts in your 20s?
No, not really. No, like.
Wait, what do you mean not really? Come on, give me some clarity here. Don't give me fogland. Did he know? Did you tell him openly that you drank to the point of blacking out in your 20s?
No.
Okay, so he didn't know. Not really, but he didn't know because you didn't tell him. Have you drunk to blackout? Right, now's the time for complete honesty, right? Have you drunk to blackout in the 4 years that you've been with Jim?
Yes, and he has seen that. He has, yes.
Yeah, and I have seen it, and
twice.
Yeah, and I've been like, and what is like surprising to me is like why I didn't see this as a huge flag when it did happen. Like I would be with her, and the way she would be behaving, it would just be like I would be completely just, turned off, disconnected from her, and I never like put it together that this is a problem. I just like, oh, you just drank too much. Like I feel like I was completely blind to her blacking out.
And how many times has it happened? Sorry to interrupt, Jim. How many times has it happened in the 4 years that you guys have been together?
The times that I have seen personally, 3 times, and then this would be a 4th time that I wasn't there.
And Jane, has it happened other times over the last 4 years that Jim doesn't know about or wasn't there to see?
Yes.
Good. I appreciate that honesty. And how many times has it happened that he hasn't seen?
I don't know, maybe like 4 or 5.
So what's that, 10 times in total over 4 years?
Mm-hmm.
Those are times that I haven't seen?
Yeah.
And is this a surprise to you, Jim?
Yes, the times that I haven't seen.
And Jane, do you remember, I know it's tough to remember what you don't remember, but do you remember how many times it happened in your 20s?
Yeah, maybe like 10 times.
Okay, so 20 times or so that you can remember, maybe a few more, maybe a few less, but 20 times as an adult you've drunken to the point of complete blackout, lost time, who knows what happened, right?
Right.
Okay. And it's obviously not a problem that's getting better if it just happened last week.
Right. I mean, it's just he doesn't really drink, so it's usually when I'm in the company of other people that do drink. It doesn't happen often because usually I'm with him and he doesn't really drink. So, yeah, I mean, there was a time when I was focused on not doing that anymore, and that was the time right before I met him where I was very intentional on not drinking and trying to find a partner a relationship that was loving and nurturing. And I knew at that time that I needed to love myself first and respect myself before I could find a partner.
Which you don't yet.
Right.
You don't yet.
Yes, that's right.
Because you're with, this is why I asked about your friend at the beginning, because you're with friends who are willing to let you commit life disasters, who are there enabling right? I mean, you're on a train and you all start chatting with this guy who turns out to be fucking predator, frankly, right?
Right.
And she's like, yeah, let's chat with this guy. We're going to flirt. I mean, the sex at the end of the evening happens after hours of preventable choices beforehand, right?
Right.
I mean, your friend could not have done more harm to you by allowing you to drink, by flirting with this guy, by saying, yeah, let's go to his house. And yeah, you're drinking to the point, like, this is who you're surrounding yourself with, right?
And Stefan, I want to say something about that because this was a friend that I have seen drink and start fights with people. And why are you letting him be friends with your fiance? Oh, this woman, rather. Sorry. Why are you letting her? So
you're not stepping in and saying, this person is toxic.
Yes, I did.
You drink to the point of blacking out. Don't be with someone who likes to drink.
I did. I had the conversation, and I didn't want to hang out with her. I stopped hanging out with her, and we stopped hanging out with her for like 3 months.
So Jane, did you hear Jim's? Jane, when did you have? I'm sorry to interrupt, but I really got to get to the core here. Jane, when did you hear the conversation with Jim about don't be friends with this woman?
About
when did that happen?
2-3 weeks before the incident.
And what were your thoughts on the issue?
He asked me specifically,
right.
Yeah, he just asked me specifically, what is it that you like about her? Why do you want to hang out with her? And I said it was just because, we had fun together. We laughed a lot together. And it was basically just like she drank with me.
Wait, sorry. I got two stories here, right? So, Jim, did you say don't be friends with her, or did you say what do you like about her? Those two aren't the same, right?
Yeah, no, he didn't say don't be friends with her. And
okay,
I knew
Jim, why didn't you say don't be friends with her?
I didn't want to tell her what she needs to do or not do. I just wanted to express, the way I expressed it, I was like, if you're going to do that, like, I don't want to be around you. Like, that's the way I put it. If you're going to, like, hang out with her and get drunk, like, don't come home because I don't want to be around you.
All right.
And then this happened.
So he didn't tell me, he didn't want to tell me what to do. He just...
Right, but he told you that he found this person extremely unpleasant and dangerous, and he didn't want to have anything to do with her, right?
Yeah, he did.
So you don't listen to him about very important things. I bet you wish you'd listened now, right?
Absolutely, yes.
Okay, so you do your own thing, even though your partner has massive fundamental issues with a friend of yours to the point where he doesn't even want to be in the same room with her. You're like, no, but we have fun, so you go and do your own thing anyway, right?
That's what happened, yeah.
That's what happened, okay. And this is after 4 years. You don't respect his perspective or opinion, Jane, to the point where you're willing to listen to him and say, well, if you have a problem with this friend, you're my fiance, we're going to get married. If you have a problem with this person and you can make a good case, right? You drink to blackout, she likes to drink. This is a terrible combination. But you didn't want to listen, right?
No, I didn't want to listen.
Okay, so Jim, this is the reality. This is the empirical information that you have about Jane. That she doesn't listen when you point out this is going to be extremely dangerous, it's toxic, it's going to have a destructive outcome most likely, and I don't want to have anything to do with it. She won't listen to you. She's going to go and do her own thing.
Well, not anymore. Not now.
Oh, come on. That's why I was asking about how this happened and what led up to it in your childhood and your history. And there's not any insight as to why it happened and how it happened. So as you understand, the addict will always say, never again, right? Always says, never again. But unless there's a fundamental emotional connection, in my opinion, as to the cause of the self-destructive behavior, then it's going to happen again, right? The amount of intervention it takes to stop. Jane, when did you first drink?
When I was 21, 20, earlier, maybe.
You didn't drink as a teenager?
Yeah, but it wasn't to black out like that.
That's not what I asked, Jane. You need to be honest with me. I didn't ask when did you drink to blackout. I asked when did you first drink?
Yeah, like 16.
16? Not any earlier?
Maybe 15. 15 the earliest.
All right. And when did you first get drunk? Not to blackout, just drunk. Was it
15.
When you were 15?
Yes.
Okay, so you first started having a drinking problem. Anybody who who drinks to the point of getting drunk has a drinking problem because you don't know when to stop, right?
Mm-hmm.
And when did you first drink to blackout that you know of?
When I was 20. 20.
All right. Okay, so for 13 years, you've had problems drinking to blackout, right?
Yes.
And for 18 years, you've had problems getting drunk.
Mm-hmm.
You don't seem to know the connection with your childhood and your father's incarceration, for which I have enormous sympathy. And therefore, your statement, like not again, or is not to me. I'm just telling you my thoughts. I'm just an amateur on the internet. Is not credible. You don't have enough knowledge as yet to be able to know why you're doing this or how to prevent it.
Right, but I do have awareness
after
around...
4 years, after 4 years, you don't listen to your partner about him telling you this situation is dangerous. Which means that you don't really get, and how could you? I mean, given your upbringing, but you don't get what it is to be a couple. To be a couple means if you have a problem with this person, I automatically have a problem with this person. If you don't like this person, I need to thoroughly evaluate the relationship. Because Jim's opinions and perspectives need to be as important to you and sometimes more important to you than your own. That's what it means to be a partner with someone, is to listen and to change your behavior based upon what your partner wants and likes. And he's not saying, let's go join the Hare Krishnas and stand around, shave our heads at the airport and beg for loose change. He's saying, you have a huge drinking problem. Don't hang around with another person who has a huge drinking problem. Is that an unreasonable thing to ask for?
No.
No, it's not. It's a perfectly reasonable, keep your fiancé safe, and you didn't listen. Which means that you do not respect his opinion enough to interfere with your own desires in the moment for the sake of the long-term health of your relationship. Did you ever have sex while blacked out before, while drunk in your mid-teens, while blacking out in your 20s? Did you ever have sex before while you were drunk or blacked out?
Yes.
How many times?
I don't know, like 2 times or 2 times, 2 or 3 times.
Okay, now before in this conversation, if I remember rightly, you said that it did not happen before.
It had not happened that I had cheated on him.
All right. Now, had you had sex before while blacked out while you were in any other relationships?
No.
All right. Now, Jim, did you know that she had blacked out and had sex before 2 times? That she remembers?
No. I didn't know.
Okay. So, I mean, Jane, you're still withholding information, right? He needs to know, obviously, absolutely everything. Right? So a week after this happened, you're still withholding essential information that he needs to evaluate what's happening, right?
Yeah, but there was a lot that was said.
Don't give me a but. No, don't give me a but. Is there anything else that Jim needs to know about this, your history, the drinking, the sexuality? Is there anything else that he needs to know at the moment? Now's the time.
I mean, no, there are stories to be told. Yeah, I mean, I guess because we sat down and we did this where it was like he said that to me. He said, "Tell me now. Is there anything else that I need to know?" And there was several things that I spoke
Wait. Sorry, Jane. Jane, when did he say that?
That was like 2 days after the incident where we sat down and
you didn't.
No, I did. I told him.
No, you didn't, because he's still getting information now that he needs to know that he didn't have until this actual conversation. I'm not trying to bag on you. I'm just pointing out a fact. He said, is there anything else I need to know?
Yeah, in that moment, I hadn't thought of to specifically say, "Oh, the blackout with the sex," but there were stories that I told him about times that I had blacked out. Several stories.
Hang on a second. So you black out and you have sex with someone. He says, "Is there anything else I need to know?" And you didn't think to tell him that this had happened before.
I did tell him. I did. I told him.
No, he says that it's new information for him now.
But that specific time, I didn't tell him that one story, but there were other stories that I told him that there were times that I blacked out that I did not remember what happened. And there were stories
but you didn't include, Jane, you just told me that you had sex 2 times that you could remember in your 20s when you were blacked out. And Jim told me he didn't know that. Do I have something incorrect?
I didn't tell him that specific story at that moment. No.
Like from the conversations that we had, like she was willing to just tell me anything that I asked about, and I guess that's just something that wasn't said, or I don't know,
or wasn't specifically asked
that it's relevant,
that way.
That when she has sex, when she's blacked out, and you say, "Tell me everything that's relevant," do you think it's relevant that she's done it before?
Yes, I do.
All right. So. But this is what I mean when I say it's not a solved problem. Because she's still, and again, I'm not trying to be mean to you, Jane, I'm just pointing out the facts for hopefully for both of you, right, to benefit, which is that you're still withholding essential information from Jim. And look, I applaud you in talking about it at the moment. I mean, it's fantastic. But he did ask you if there was anything that he needed to know, and you withheld that this had happened before. And that is still very manipulative, right? And I can understand that. I really. But
I didn't withhold it. I didn't withhold it. If he would have asked me that specific question, I would have told him that.
Come on,
or if it had occurred to me in the moment to share that with him, I would have. There's nothing that I need to hide from him now. There's nothing that I need to hide from him now.
Do not insult my intelligence. Look, if you wanna come to me to find out something factual, don't insult my intelligence. A man cannot know what you don't tell him. Well, if he'd asked me in that particular, that's not how honesty works. It's not a lock that you have to damn well pick. Honesty is complete disclosure. And you know, as well as I know, as well as everyone who's listening to this knows, that you withheld that because you feared a negative judgment from Jim. And don't tell me it's because he didn't ask the right questions. I mean, come on. We've got to be bigger than that when it comes to this conversation. You withheld it because it was a negative information for you to pass along to him. You withheld it because you were ashamed of it. You withheld it because you feared his negative judgment. But don't tell me it's because he didn't ask the right questions. I mean, come on. We have to be more honest with each other than that.
I will tell. I'm willing to tell him anything. I was in that moment, and I am now willing to tell him anything.
No, you're not. No, you're still not. Look, Jane, you're still not being honest. And I sympathize. But you weren't willing to tell him that this sexual, drunken, blackout situation has happened before, which is directly relevant to the situation at hand. So you're not willing to tell. You want to hide things because you want to protect yourself, or at least what you think is protecting yourself, because you want to get married despite what you've done, right? I assume you guys are calling because you are still thinking about getting married, right?
Yes.
And Jim, what are your thoughts about that at the moment?
Like I do know that, like, I think there is like a kind of divide where you're saying, like it's hard for me to even speak now. It's just like a woman not disclosing.
Tell me what you want to look. Sorry to interrupt. Tell me what you want to talk about if what I'm asking is interfering. What do you want to say? I mean, you can throw my question out the window. I mean, this is a big conversation. Could be a life-changing conversation. So, Jim, what do you want to talk about? Where's your heart?
So the part that is most alive is that the refraining from telling me certain things, like just withholding, like that seems like a bit of a pattern. Like the relevant information, it's just like, well, you didn't ask, and I didn't think it was relevant to tell you. It seems like, I don't know if this is just a stereotype, but like,
I'm sorry to interrupt you, Jim. That is a lie. That I'm sorry, Jane, to say it this boldly, and I'm not saying you're sort of consciously being nasty or anything, but that is it's a lie, right? To say, well, you didn't ask me, and I didn't think it was relevant, because it's so obviously relevant that you'd have a child to not notice that, right? So, okay, so lying is a problem, right?
Yeah.
Okay, sorry, go ahead.
And I mean, I don't know, maybe you did say it already, but like I really would like to know what the root cause is, and maybe I'm not seeing it right now. And if you could literally just say what that is, like I want to know what the root cause is so we can prevent this from happening again.
Well, first of all, you can't prevent it from happening again, because you're not her, right?
Right.
And you already tried to prevent it from happening a month ago when you said, don't hang around with this alcoholic skank, right? Who ended up enabling and facilitating this completely disastrous event, right?
Right.
Where she could have been raped, she could have gotten pregnant, she could have got AIDS, she could have got some STD, right? Guys who will bang drunken women on buses, on trains, sorry, or that they meet on trains that day are not well people, to put it as nicely as possible, right? So you already tried to exercise your authority in the relationship and prevent this from happening, right?
Yeah. Yes.
And she didn't listen to you. The disaster happened, and then she's continuing to lie to you about what happened in the past, right? Now, if she's being honest now, at least we can hope that she's being, maybe there's more. See, I don't know, right? The problem is when someone lies to me, afterwards I assume that they're still lying, right? And so I don't know what the truth is. You don't know what the truth is. And to some degree, Jane doesn't know what the truth is because she blacks out, right?
Right.
The cause is massive unprocessed childhood trauma, in my humble opinion. And it is truly a humble opinion, right? And that's sort of the original cause, right? But Jim, do you know what the cause is now?
No, I still don't. I still don't. And I want to know.
Okay, do you have a cell phone on you?
Yes.
Can you turn it on?
It's on.
Okay. Can you open up the camera application?
And take a picture of myself.
Yeah. Smart
Right.
guy.
And what and
You are
what
the
is
cause
it?
of it now because you're willing to put up with the behavior.
Right.
Because you're still thinking about getting married.
Right.
And because you've been putting up with the behavior for 4 years, you are the enabler.
I know that. And I don't
think you do. No, I don't think you do. I don't think you do because Jim, you were asking me, what is the cause? And you don't know what the cause is because you are the cause in your relationship of this behavior because she has been drinking to blackout during the time that you have been going out. I'm sure this lying has been a problem, and I'm sure that her not listening to you when you try to give her good advice is also a problem. And you are continuing to go out with her, and you are going to or thinking about getting married to her. So you are the cause at the moment.
Right.
You are the enabler.
I accept that.
Do you?
Yes.
What does that mean that you accept that? What does that change?
I don't know. It seems like nothing.
Right. So don't give me this stuff like you accept and blah, blah, blah. That's just trying to wave me off from something you're uncomfortable about. I accept full responsibility. What does that mean? Well, nothing. Well, then don't tell me that, right? Because you're just trying to manipulate me, right?
Okay. And then what could I do? What would change if I did fully accept it?
That you are enabling. Look, and I'm sorry to talk about you like you're not here, Jane. And again, I mean this with all sympathy to your history, but Jane does not have internal standards of behavior as yet. She does what she can get away with, which is typical of people who have addiction problems. She does what she can get away with, which is why she will glom onto and use her physical attractiveness to glom onto a man who will not challenge her fundamentally on this kind of behavior, right? Because to be a very physically attractive woman is to always have some other guy who will enable you, right? Snap your fingers, snap your fingers, snap your fingers. You can have some other guy who's going to come and enable you, right? So you're asking me, what does it mean to accept that you're enabling this behavior on her behalf?
Or like, or how could I, or what would have to change in me to fully accept responsibility? Like you asked me, like, what would change?
Yep.
And I
will tell you in a sec, but let me first ask you this question. Does Jane have a temper?
No. Well, there's sometimes where I'm just like asking a question or I want to like uncover something, and like just like in the past week, I was asking questions about just details about what happened, and she became like defensive because like she didn't know how to say I don't know, and she felt defensive about that, like because she doesn't know, doesn't remember, and she felt like saying I don't know is not a good enough answer, and it was just defensiveness on her part. And that's the only time that I really see any temper.
And do you know why you don't see her temper?
No, I don't.
Because you don't stand up for yourself and you don't stand up for her. Because you don't challenge her on her dysfunction. That's why she doesn't manifest a temper. Right?
Right.
You are intimately involved in this disaster that happened. I don't mean that you're to blame specifically, right? That's fundamentally, that would be to take away moral agency from Jane, which I'm certainly not willing to do. What did you think was going to happen with a woman who had a long-term history of blackouts? You didn't know about the sexual blackouts, but her long-term history of blackouts. If she goes out with a woman who is also a drunk.
Exactly what happened.
Right. So why didn't you work harder to prevent it?
I asked myself that too. Like, I feel like telling her what to do and not to do is not.
No, you don't tell her what she's going to do and not going to do. And I'm sorry, I don't mean to sound frustrated. You've never had this modeled, I would assume, right? You don't tell people what to do. You tell them what you will accept and what you will not accept. And let them make their choices. You don't tell her what to do. You tell her what you will live with and what you will not live with. Do you understand?
Yes.
If you are going to, as somebody who drinks to blackout, if you're going to go hang out with alcoholics, I am not dating you. I am not marrying you. You don't tell her what to do. You tell her what you will accept, what you will not accept, and let her make the choice. Because you're like, well, I don't want to be a bully. I don't want to tell her what to do. No, it's like, I don't go into a restaurant that serves Thai food and say to them, you've got to goddamn well make pizza here. I say, oh, I feel like pizza. That's a Thai food restaurant, so I'm not going to eat there. I tell them implicitly what I will accept and what I will not accept. And if I want Thai food, I go there. And if I don't want Thai food, I don't go there. I'm not bullying and yelling at them. I'm just telling them what I will and will not accept.
So I have told her that I would not accept it, and now it happened. So is there...
No, you have not told her that she will not accept it.
No, he told me that he told me that he just doesn't want to be around it. That's what he said. If you're gonna do that, then I don't want to see you. I don't want to go to the
ball game with you and go to the train with you and go to the guy's house with you, right?
Yes.
Okay, so
no, I don't want to be there with you. Then go do it by yourself.
If you've got a drinking problem, you're going to be around people who've got a drinking problem. I'm not marrying you.
Right.
I'm not dating you.
Right.
That's called being assertive, not like, well, I don't want to be around when you play Russian roulette because I don't want to clean up.
Right.
Right.
Yeah, I see that now. I definitely held back and did not want to be, I guess, ruthlessly honest.
That what she does is, hang on. I hope that you have enough pride to recognize that what Jane does is absolutely unacceptable in a relationship, right?
Absolutely, yeah.
Right? Not listening, lying, going out, blacking out, having sex with other guys. This is, I don't even need to say that, right? This is absolutely, completely, and totally unacceptable.
Yes.
Okay. Now, you have been accepting it without the sex, we hope, for 4 years, right?
Yes.
So why do you accept it? Why don't you have standards and take a stand? And I'm not trying to say well, you should and you must. Why don't you? Why? I'm asking a genuinely curious question, which is why is that not on in your vocabulary? What happens if you do that?
So if I guess there's a sense of wanting to help, a wanting to help her,
Oh, don't tell me that. I can't take it. I'm sorry. I hate to interrupt you after I just asked you. You can't possibly imagine that this was helping her. You can't. Like, you can't tell me that, right?
No, and not enabling her.
Because you not taking a stand ended up with her in a potentially life-threatening situation.
Right.
That's not helping her. So what else? Why don't you do it? Why don't you take a stand for her, for you, for your relationship?
It seems like I don't think it's a rational thing. I think it's just like this something subconsciously, I don't know what it is, like stops me from being assertive.
I know it's something, but what is it? You say you guys want to figure out how to not have this happen again.
Yeah.
Then you got to know why it happened. So why don't you take a stand with her for yourself? And I know it's a tough question.
Yeah, the honest answer is,
the honest answer is on the tip of your tongue. It wouldn't happen. But why?
The honest answer is I don't know. But I want to know. I want to know. I want to discover that.
And do you guys want to keep going with this convo? Is this helpful?
Yes. Yes.
Jane?
Yes.
Okay, good. Well, I appreciate that, and I appreciate you guys hanging in there.
I mean, is it that he just wants to be with me, so he just avoids that confrontation or that decision, right? That's why, is because at the end of the day, like, he knows that if he is assertive with me, then we might just break up, and he maybe subconsciously he's not willing to do that.
Smart girl. You should be a teacher. Yeah, because the relationship will be threatened if he stands up for himself and stands up for you, right? Obviously, Jane, I'm sure in hindsight you wish he'd been a hell of a lot more assertive about this drinking stuff, right?
Yes, absolutely.
Right. So what was comfortable in the moment or easier in the moment turns out to be a hell of a lot more difficult in the long run, right?
Right.
Yeah.
All right. So the reason, Jim, that you don't stand up for yourself is that you fear that she's going to leave you if you stand up for yourself. In other words, that she has chosen you for your spinelessness, and if you grow a spine and stand up for yourself, then she's going to dump you, right? And that doesn't have anything to do with, that has nothing to do with her. That's to do with your mom, which is that you did not have a strong enough bond with your mother that you could be assertive without threatening the bond, right? In other words, if you were assertive as a baby, as a toddler, as a child with your mother, if you were assertive, then you faced rejection from your mother, and therefore you have found that with regards to women, you get along by going along. That if you manifest yourself fully or even partially in the relationship, if you materialize from the ghost of masculine compliance, if you materialize in your relationship with a woman, the woman is going to kick you out. Tell me if I'm wrong.
I'm just trying to process everything you say. Like it seems like yes.
Well, no, we can test this, right? My daughter disagrees with me strongly at least a half a dozen times a day. Mm-hmm. Which I think is fantastic. I welcome that. Right. I never want her to agree with me because I'm bigger or because I'm daddy or anything like that. She disagrees with me about places we went, memories I have, and she's, half the time she's right. And I thank her for correcting me, and I appreciate that. And so my daughter, at least 6 times a day, at least, this is just off the top of my head, disagrees with me. And I consider that foundational to our bond. We don't have a bond if she can't disagree with me. We have compliance, which is the opposite of a bond. A bond occurs and is necessary when people disagree with each other strongly. That's when you have a bond. That's when you need a bond, right?
Right.
And the bond is strengthened by, the bond is the degree of disagreement that is allowed and fostered and encouraged and resolved in a relationship. That is what a bond is where you disagree. So my question to you, Jim, is when you were a child, were you allowed to strongly disagree with your mother?
allowed to strongly disagree, I can't think of any time that would have been the case.
You would have thousands of examples popping into your mind if that were the case. If you were to ask my daughter, are you allowed to disagree with your dad? She would say, oh yeah, all the time, blah, 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 and that's just today. So if you can't remember being allowed to disagree with your mother, it's because you didn't have the bond, which is the disagreement, the capacity to disagree, talk about it, and resolve it. So if you're not allowed to disagree with your mom, then you, like me, in my 20s, and like most men around the world, and certainly in the West, you are whipped. And it's not Jane's fault fundamentally. She's just cashing in on that. It's like the horrible pay it down the chain from mother to girlfriend to wife to mother to girlfriend to wife. But your mom fucked you up by not allowing you to disagree with her, which means that you're not trained to negotiate with women. You're not trained to negotiate with women, which means that you don't respect women. Right? Because if you respected women, you would disagree with them. And then if they got hysterical about you disagreeing with them, you'd say, well, I'm sorry, this not, I can't self-erase in a relationship because then I can't have a relationship. It's like castrating yourself for better sex. It doesn't work.
And I've noticed
you were raised to be a little toy robot, Lord Fauntleroy compliance to the matriarchy. And so for you to have an opinion that is different from a woman is to be rejected by a woman. And because it comes from your childhood, to disagree with a woman and stick to that disagreement is to fucking die. Because when you're a child, you comply with your mother's wishes because she is literally the source of your life. She gave birth to you, she breastfeeds you, she comes and gives you food in the middle of the night, she cleans you up, she keeps you from getting rashes, she bathes you, she takes you to the doctor. Mother is life. To disagree with mother if she doesn't allow it is to die. That is how we are trained. That is how we are programmed. That is what happens to us biologically. Disagreement with women is death if there is no bond. And so what you're avoiding by refusing to be assertive with Jane is called annihilation panic, which is a fear of literal death, a fear of non-existence, a fear of becoming a ghost in the jungle, a baby on an iceberg set adrift, abandoned, sacrificed, denied, dead. That's the legacy of your mom. That's the terrible power that mothers hold, and how often they exercise that power over their children, and in particular boys. And in particular boys if they have a bad relationship with the father, because then all of the thwarted negativity towards the father gets poured out so often on the boys. And so for you to disagree with Jane and to have standards with Jane is to threaten what you call a relationship, which is codependency, but what you call a relationship is to threaten that. And what that does, if you stand up for Jane, I'm not saying to Jane at her expense, for Jane, because I asked Jane, would you have liked it if he'd stand up for you? She's like, God, yes, I need that. Because I fucked things up royally last week. And if he'd been more assertive, that probably wouldn't have happened. But if you stand up to Jane, you will feel the true terror of the fear of death as an infant and as a child in disagreeing with your mother. People always call the twos the terrible twos. Well, that's when the child develops an ego and learns how to say no. It's not the terrible twos. It's the terrible parenting twos. It's not the terrible child twos. But this is what I mean when I say you don't know why this happened. You chose a woman who ignores your preferences and acts in a destructive manner because your mother ignored your preferences and acted in a destructive manner. And Jane, you chose Jim because he facilitates that, because he doesn't interfere with your selfish preferences in the moment, because you grew up without a dad. Your dad couldn't exercise any preferences. He couldn't even leave prison. And what did you say about your stepdad? He's nice and he's funny. Well, fuck that. That's not what you need from a dad, nice and funny. That's what you need from a comedian or a waiter. What you need from a dad is, what the hell are you doing? Why are you drinking at 15? Why are you getting drunk at 15? Why are you having blackouts? Why are you with this spineless guy? That's what you need, not someone who facilitates you or these bad decisions or bad behaviors. You need a dad who's going to step the fuck in and intervene when your life is heading for disaster. Right? If you were to say to me about your stepdad, oh man, he can be a total bastard sometimes. He really tells me the way it is, and I really hate that he does that, but it's really great that he does that. No, what did you say? He's nice and funny, which means he's not interfering with your self-destructive tendencies, right? Tell me where I'm wrong. If I'm wrong, I'm wrong. These are my thoughts.
I mean, from what I'm hearing, like, it's spot on. It's spot on.
So the relationship as it stands is a manifestation of prior trauma.
Yes.
And if you get married, in my opinion, you are going to seal yourself in that trauma, never to escape. Your childhood will enclose around you like a black acid womb and continue until you're both dead, which you will probably pray for sooner rather than later, because you do not have anywhere close to the level of self-knowledge that you need to overcome this history. And if the relationship is a plain manifestation of avoided trauma, then it is going to be poison going forward. It will be poison for kids that you may have. It will be poison for each other. And either you're going to be ground into a fine scrotum-based dust life form, Jim, or you're going to stand up for yourself, in which case you'll probably end up with a divorce. And then Jane, despite all the great intentions you may have now, Jane will have a whole bunch of lawyers whispering in her ear how she can take all of your stuff and get true vengeance for all of her fantasies of happily ever after that were spoiled by your mutual dysfunction. In which case, you're going to spend years in court, spend $50,000 or $100,000 or $200,000, barely get to see your kids. This is a potential life disaster of the first order, like of getting a life-threatening illness disorder level.
So you're saying that we can't make it better? That there is no way to make it better, or to have awareness around what we've discovered, and consistently have awareness around that going forward?
By August? What do you think?
So putting that date aside,
Right, that wasn't. I didn't get an answer there. By August, what do you think?
I think it's possible. I mean, I think that I have already discovered a lot of things about myself, and that if I work on it every day, I do think that it could be a lot better.
Oh God, Jane, you were still lying to him at the beginning and throughout this call. You're not processing that. You're just trying to skate past that and say, yeah, let's keep going. You were still lying to him and to me, which doesn't matter about lying to me, but you lied to him over the last week about essential information that he needed to have. You're still manipulating him. You're still lying to him after you betrayed him. And you're saying to me, yeah, we could get married by August. Yeah, I'll work on it. You've got to be kidding me. You can't expect me to take that seriously. I'm not your fiancé. I'm not your boyfriend. I don't have to take nonsense like that seriously. So, Jim, if she's not going to be, I'm telling you, it's not possible. You cannot possibly resolve all of the stuff that is massive and new, especially because you're in your 30s. If you were 20, you wouldn't have 10 to 15 years of bad behavior with which to reverse, with which to change. It's May, June, July, August. Are you getting married early or late August? Is that the plan? Which
late August.
Okay, so you have less than 4 months from a standing start to learn how to climb Mount Everest. Right, in terms of self-knowledge, right?
Mm-hmm.
Tell me what you think, Jim. Do you think that this is a viable plan? If you were hearing this from some other couple, what would you think?
I still think it's possible. I still think like there is a possibility to do it. And if it isn't, like I'm not gonna get married, but I at least want to know that I'm on the right path to like, you know, healing all of this childhood trauma and so we don't like it doesn't like to me it doesn't even marry like the date doesn't fucking matter right now. I don't care about that. Like if we get married or not. I just want to make sure that I can gather all the self-knowledge for myself to move forward, for her to gather all the stuff, so we can stop doing the behaviors that we have been doing. And whether we get married this year or next year, it doesn't make any difference to me. Like I want to grow and I want to work through this.
All right. I mean, I don't know. Do you guys want to end the call, or how frank do you want me to be? Because I mean, I think you're heading.
I want you to be frank. I want you to be frank.
Okay. Jim, last week she got drunk and screwed another guy. After you explicitly told her that is not something, not a situation she should be in. And she's lied to you about it since. I mean, I don't get any emotional response from you about this. She got drunk and she screwed another guy. Last week. 4 months before you're supposed to be getting married. Does this have any, do you have any fundamental emotional response to this?
If you saw me, Stefan, the first 2 days it happened, you would know full well the extent of my emotional response.
Oh my God. Are you saying that this lasts 2 days? This level of betrayal lasts 2 days and you start getting over it?
No, but to say that right now. No, but to say right now that I'm not showing any emotion, like I have been on a roller coaster ride. I have been talking to a therapist. I've been wanting to like run through this house and like destroy every piece of furniture in this house. Like that's how angry I have been. And I've been processing it. I'm not just like pushing it under the rug. And right now you hear a monotone voice. Like the anger has been expressed. There has been a place to like let that out. And right now you may not hear it, but like it's there.
But she's not alarmed by the anger, right? Jane's not alarmed by the anger because she's still willing to lie to you, right? So we just found out in this call that she has been lying to you for the last week about blacked out sex in the past. You also didn't know that she had blackouts in her 20s, right?
No, I did know that. I did know that.
Last week, right?
I mean, prior to this call, yes, I knew that,
But you didn't know it for the 4 years prior to the drunken sex thing, right?
No. And there's a whole other slew of things that I didn't know that.
Okay, but let's just talk about the revelation that came out in this call that she has had drunken sex in the past. That's why I mean when I say you're not having any emotional reaction to that. So you found out that she withheld crucial pieces of information from you when you asked her to tell you everything. She was still lying to you. And you have no reaction to that.
I don't know.
And that lack of reaction is suicidal, fundamentally. At what point is it enough? Right? At what point? You didn't find out before last week that she had blackouts in her 20s. You didn't find out until this call that what she said was a one-time thing happened a few times before. Drunken sex, blackout sex. What has to happen for you to say that's enough? I have all I need to know. What has to happen? What is your point of no return?
So if I'm being completely honest, like the point of no return is if she becomes defensive when I am asking her about her past or whatever happened.
She became defensive in this call. She became defensive in this call. So, is that it? She started to say, well, he didn't ask me directly, and I wasn't withholding, and right? She became defensive and manipulative in this call. No offense, Jane, but I mean, that's what happened, and that's why it's so good to be recorded. So, is that it? Is that enough? The fact that she lied to you after you begged her to tell you the truth, which you needed to hear, I think is enough, but everyone has their own standards. So if that's enough, right, then that's enough. Or is now that goalpost going to change? Because you said it would be too much. It would be a deal breaker if she was defensive, and she was. So is that the deal breaker, or is the goalpost going to move?
I guess the goalpost is going to move, if I'm being honest.
Okay, so then you don't have any standards, then you're probably just going to get married because she wants to. I'm going to tell you this. Look, I can't tell you guys what to do. I don't do that, right? I mean, I did that once when a guy was almost drinking himself to death. I won't tell you what to do. I can tell you my feelings, what I would do. This is not any kind of commandment for what you would do. Jim, I'm shocked that you're still there. I mean, if my fiance had drunken sex with another man 4 months before my wedding, you would not even see the hole in the wall with my suitcase. I might not even have a suitcase. I'd have one of those Roger Rabbit holes in the wall of me getting out. I would not stay to negotiate. I would not stay to try and figure things out. I would not try and find out if I could trust her again, because she had told me everything that I needed to know through that. I wouldn't say, well, is there anything else I need to know? And is there anything else? Right? I simply wouldn't do that. Because if a woman is 33 and is still at an emotional level of development where she is not listening to her fiancé, she's doing what she wants, and when the fiancé predicts a disaster, goes out, has the disaster, and then continues to lie about relevant information afterwards, I would have nothing to do with that relationship. I would regretfully and sorrowfully say, man, I must have had a messed up past in order to end up in this situation. I have harmed this woman by enabling this kind of behavior, right? As the saying goes, we teach people how to treat us. She is doing this because she can get away with it, which is very harmful for her, right? You are not helping her. You are harming her by allowing this behavior to continue, by pretending to negotiate the unnegotiable. Infidelity is a permanent deal breaker, in my opinion, in a relationship. Because it reveals such a lack of self-knowledge that it literally is like getting into a cab where the cab driver has a brick on the pedal, is blindfolded, and currently going through an epileptic seizure. That lack of self-knowledge where this can occur, not at the age of 18 or 17 or 20 or 22, but 33, an educated woman, she studied to be a teacher. Then this is where she is. And there's still denial about where she is. There's not a lot of insight about where she got here, and there's continued lying and manipulation, which means the behavior is extremely unlikely to change. And if you want to have, like, if it's just, that's why I asked if you want to have kids. Jim, if it's just you, you can put your own dick in a blender if you want. I mean, it's your life, it's your dick, right? But if you guys are thinking of having children, then much larger perspectives are at play, right? Because you are going to have children, and you guys know how difficult your childhoods were, right? How messed up your childhoods were. You can see that in your own relationships. So society then has a say, because you're going to have kids into this messed up relationship. That messed up relationship is going to mess up those perfect, wonderful, innocent children. And then those children are going to go out into society and do this shit all over again. Right? At some point, we have to throw our weight against the stupid, blind razor wheel of history that just keeps going round and round, crushing the next generation over and over and over again. And you guys are just, you got your fucking finger pointed right over, poised right over that photocopy button photocopy my history, photocopy my history. Take the same picture in blood, photocopy it onto the next generation. Make the same mistakes again, fuck up the next generation, rinse and repeat. You guys' fingers are like 1 millimeter above that photocopy button, and I'm saying don't push it. I wouldn't push it. You guys can do what you want. I would not push it. You are not in a position to productively disagree with each other. There's still lying and manipulation that is occurring 1 week after a vicious and destructive infidelity. Come on. You guys know what's going to happen if you go forward with this, right? I'm not telling you anything you don't fundamentally know, right? And the fact is that nobody in your life is saying, meh, 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 emergency, danger, Will Robinson, danger, right? Everybody in your life should be like, oh my God. So you played Russian roulette, click. Oh, stop spinning the revolver, right? That your parents aren't freaking out and saying, my God, right? That your friends aren't freaking out and saying, my God. Well, one of them facilitated all of this, right? A week ago, Jane, this woman was your friend who has detonated your engagement. That's where you were a week ago. Your fiancé saying, danger, danger, danger. You like friend, friend, friend. And doing your own thing. Well, there's a price to be paid for these kinds of things, these kinds of decisions. This was a decision. You chose not to listen to your fiancé, and you chose to conform to your incredibly destructive friend who facilitated and allowed this disaster. So, in my place, I've not had a woman cheat on me. So, I can't say from experience. But, Jim, if I were in your place, I would not continue the relationship. It's your choice. But I think that this is a manifestation of history. I think that you're both very bad for each other because after 4 years together, Jane ends up in a life-threatening situation. She could have got raped. She could have got killed. She could have got pregnant. She could have got AIDS or some other STD. This is what you guys created and produced after 4 years together. My God, what's it going to be like after 10 years together? Are you going to be Bonnie and Clyde? This is what came out of 4 years of proximity. You can't imagine that this is going to go well. Now, if you say, well, you know, we love each other, there's, I don't know, whatever, we love each other, then okay, then my suggestion, I can't tell you what to do, you know, take a trial separation. Work on yourself. When you're together, right, the mutual toxicity in history and lack of self-knowledge, for which, again, I sympathize. Shitty childhoods, I get that. I really sympathize. But 4 years together has produced this disaster. And if your proximity to each other is inflaming these kinds of messes, which it is, empirically, then if you are going to work on yourselves, you can't do it while you're together, because when you're together, you are replicating and reanimating all of these zombie cadavers of a broken history. You are enabling each other's bad behavior, right? Jane, you're enabling his spinelessness, and Jim, you're enabling her selfishness and lack of forethought. And arrogance, right? I mean, because it's arrogant to say, well, I know better than you about my drinking, and I know better than you about my friends who are drinkers, and I know better than you, and I'm going to do my own thing. Well, this is arrogant, right? So you are inflaming her arrogance. She's inflaming your spinelessness. So if you're going to work on these issues, doing it together is a mess. It's a disaster. Right? It's like trying to learn a new language with somebody continuing to talk to you in the old language. I don't see how it can possibly work. So if you want to have a chance for the future, then, again, my opinion, just what I would do. If I wanted to have a chance for a wonderful future with this relationship, whatever that might mean, then I would say, okay, well, we need to stop enabling each other's bad behavior. We need to take a break, and we need to work on ourselves, and we need to stay in contact and figure out where things are going from there. But once you are married, and then it's you and the government, and the police, and the law courts, and the family courts, and the lawyers, whatever happens in the future, which will probably be a complete disaster. So once you cross that threshold, there's no turning back. And so I don't think, in my opinion, I don't think that you're anywhere even close to being where you need to be to get married. I can't imagine that's too controversial a statement given the drunken infidelity plus continual lying that occurred since last week. So I think if there's to be a chance, yeah, you can work on yourselves. But if you're living together, I don't see how that's going to work because you're just continually reanimating the old dysfunctional behavior. So I would suggest, get into therapy, get into self-work, and take a break. Those are my thoughts. I obviously can't tell anybody what to do.
Okay. Thank you.
Thank you.
You're very welcome. I hope you guys will drop me a line. Let me know how it goes. And I really, really appreciate the call. And just to reiterate once more, I am incredibly sorry about what happened to you guys as kids. That is horrendous, disastrous. And I also went through a roller coaster in the call, but I just really wanted to reiterate, I'm incredibly sorry about all of that.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
You're very welcome.